All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty cool. It's a really unique way to teach second graders how to read, and it's a system that goes way beyond just memorizing rules. Instead, it uses a captivating story to really make the building blocks of language click. Let's see how it all works.
You know, if you've ever tried to teach a kid to read, you know this struggle. How do you take something like phonics, which can be kind of abstract, right, and make it connect with every single student, especially when they all learn in such different ways? It's a huge hurdle in early education.
And really, the heart of the problem is that every kid learns differently. A method that works like a charm for one child might totally fall flat for another. So that begs the question, how in the world do you create one single framework that can actually adapt to everyone?
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. Instead of just throwing another list of complicated rules at these kids, this framework wraps the principles of phonics inside a really engaging narrative.
The whole thing is built around this story, a tale of two birds, mother bird and father bird. Now, these aren't just cute names. They're actually the core of a metaphor that makes a pretty complex phonetic concept surprisingly easy to grasp.
So here's how it works. A mother bird sound is a short vowel and it blends with the consonant to its right, like in at or in. Then you have a father bird sound, which is a long vowel, and it blends with the consonant to its left, like in me or go. This simple little distinction gives kids a physical direction to connect with each type of sound. It's pretty brilliant.
And this quote just brings it all to life, doesn't it? The idea of phonetic blends isn't just some dry rule on a worksheet anymore. Suddenly, it's this vivid image of birds' wings flapping in the wind. It connects an abstract idea to something natural and totally memorable.
But this whole bird metaphor, that's just the starting point. It's actually part of a much bigger, really well thought out system that guides students through a clear path, from the basic skills all the way to creative expression.
Okay, so the learning process is broken down into three main stages. First up, you've got the procedural lessons. This is all about the fundamentals, using fun stuff like games to learn the mechanics. Then you move into the mental stage, where kids start to internalize those rules by making their own practice books. And finally, you get to the conceptual stage, which is the highest level. This is where they really apply their skills in things like group reading and, eventually, their own original writing.
Now, to make sure this whole system actually works for every student, the framework is built to tap into 6 different ways that kids learn, making it a truly well-rounded approach.
Think of these 6 capacities as different doors into the same room. It doesn't matter if a kid learns by moving, or by drawing, or by thinking things through, or by working with others. The framework has activities designed for all of them. And that's the key here. This isn't just a nice little add-on. It's fundamental to making sure that these abstract ideas really sink in, no matter how a child's brain works.
So what does this actually look like in a classroom? Well, this is where the theory turns into some really fun, hands-on activities that honestly kind of blur the line between doing work and just playing.
Let's take a look at an example for those kids who just need to move to learn. There's this great activity called the phonetic or bird walk.
So get this, the kids literally act out the sounds with their bodies. They're using their arms as wings and taking steps to represent different vowels and consonants. This physical activity directly reinforces those mother bird and father bird concepts we talked about, creating this super strong connection between their mind and their body.
And the bird walk is just one piece of the puzzle, you know? The whole framework is packed with other stuff like hangman and bingo to practice forming words, writing poems to play with vowel sounds, and working together on projects. It makes for a really diverse and engaging way to learn. We're going to walk through a simple but really powerful 4-step framework that systematically builds a child's understanding of phonics right from the ground up.
Okay, so here's the game plan for our journey. First, we begin with what we can hear. Then, we connect that to what we can see. After that, we practice it through writing, and finally, we get our hands on it for some real mastery. See how that works? Each step logically builds on the last one. So let's jump in with the first sense, hearing. So how do we make a sound memorable? Instead of that sterile repetition, A, this method anchors the sound in the natural rhythm and rhyme of a poem. It gives the brain this great contextual hook, like a little song to hang that new information on.
Okay, listen to this. We make meadow and garden gay. We all spring dance and play and play. You immediately hear it, right? That target sound, that long A, is repeated in the rhyming words gay and play. It's not just a sound anymore. It's part of a story.
which makes it instantly more accessible.
All right, so once the sound is locked in through hearing, the very next step is to make it visible. We're moving from the ear to the eye, connecting that auditory experience to a personal mental image. This is where that abstract sound starts to become a concrete idea in a child's mind.
And this is the poem picture activity. Now, this might just look like a fun little art project, but it's actually a really powerful cognitive task. To draw the scene, a student has to process the language, create a mental image, and then physically translate that image onto paper. That act of creation just solidifies the meaning and makes the whole concept truly their own.
Okay, so the student has heard the sound and they've visualized its meaning. Step 3 is the critical leap. We're going from passively recognizing that sound to actively producing the letters that create it. This is where we get hands-on with writing.
And here's what that looks like in action. Using that AY pattern from the poem, the student practices writing it with all different kinds of consonants. So they're forming bay, k, day. This isn't just rote memorization. It's actually building muscle memory and locking in the visual structure of that specific sound pattern.
We've seen it and we've written it. The final step is all about mastery, and we're going to do it through touch and movement. This is where we introduce a fantastic tactile tool that brings all the previous steps together for some really rapid, fluent practice. And this is the Phonics Flutterbook. It's a wonderfully simple, custom-made tool that lets a student physically flip through letters to build words. All of a sudden, the abstract process of blending sounds becomes this fun, hands-on game.
And what's really cool is how specific this tool is. The vowel long book is set up for consonant-vowel patterns, just like the play and gay that we started with. But then there's also a vowel short book that's engineered for vowel-consonant blends, like R or AP. So the design itself targets the exact skill you need to practice.
And here's the best part. It's incredibly easy to make. You just print the templates, cut them into pages, arrange them in order, and then pop a staple through them. In just a few minutes, you have this powerful, customized learning tool ready to go.
And this is where it all comes together. As the student physically flips the pages, they're touching the letters, they're seeing new words form, and they're sounding them out loud. This fusion of tactile, visual, and auditory feedback, it creates this powerful learning loop that just rapidly builds their reading fluency.
So, let's zoom out for a second and see how this all connects. This isn't just a collection of random activities. It's a systematic journey. It's a really cohesive path that takes a learner from their very first exposure to a sound all the way to confident mastery. So we start with the auditory sense through poetry. Then we engage the visual and kinesthetic senses with drawing. We move to reading and writing with bookwork, and finally, we get that tactile mastery with the Flutterbook. Every modality is purposefully engaged to build the strongest possible foundation.
And that's the real power here. This whole sequence takes something abstract and makes it concrete, accessible, and truly memorable. It's all about building a deep, resilient understanding of how our language works, one sense at a time. So this leaves us with a practical question to think about. Whether you're a teacher or a parent, which one of these sensory steps could you use to transform your next lesson? Will it be the poetry, the drawing, the writing, or maybe making a Flutterbook? Which tool are you going to use to make learning truly come alive? But all of these games and activities, they're not just for fun. They are all building towards one big, powerful goal, turning these kids into actual writers. So, the journey starts with something called remembered content writing. Basically, they start by just copying text they already know. It's a low-pressure way to build that muscle memory and confidence. It lets them focus on the mechanics of writing without stressing about what to write, which is a huge first step. All right, after that, the next step is all about reading together, out loud. Things like choral reading do so much more than just build fluency. It turns them into a little community of readers, helping them feel the rhythm of language as a group and building up the confidence they're going to need for that final step.
And finally, we get to the top of the mountain, invented or original writing. This is the big payoff moment. It's where students take everything they've learned, from mother bird sounds to working together, and use it to create something totally new, straight from their own imagination. It's awesome.
So, when you look at the whole picture, this bird-inspired method is doing so much more than just teaching kids how to sound out words. It's a systematic journey that gives them the confidence and the tools to see themselves not just as readers, but as authors. And it kind of leaves you thinking, doesn't it? What if the most powerful learning tools we have aren't rule books, but really good stories?